This is the Nightwolf howling at you, and we're going to be jumping through one of the Sorceress's portals to land on Eternia so we can talk about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. This time we're looking at the He-Man figure, the most powerful man in the universe, from the cartoon collection, based of course on the Filmation cartoon from the 80s. On the back, we see the He-Man pulling out the Sword of Ancients and pulling the Sword of Power away from Skeletor, which it's as seen on the Masks of Power, and I don't really recall Skeletor getting his hands on the Sword of Power. So I might have to rewatch that episode. As they've been inclined to do, they put down modernizing and celebrating the original 80s Masters of the Universe animated series, rather than put a description of what's going on, such as He-Man pulls the Sword of Ancients from its crystal prison in order to defeat the Masks of Power, or something to that effect. If I remember correctly, in the episode, the Sword of Power actually combines with the Sword of Ancients. And then I think they separate and it gets buried again anyway. But let's go ahead and take a look at this figure. Boy, did I really screw up cutting that one apart. So with our He-Man, we of course get our oh so lovely sheet of paper that shows us what parts come apart from him. That sounded really stupid. But something that I think it would be nice if G.I. Joe gave us with the amount of equipment that they put on the classified figures. And he comes with the Mask of the Magi comic, which I'm actually kind of sick and tired of this comic already. I mean, this is like the third time I've had to go through it, I think, and it's just such a stupid story. But we open it up where Skeletor has asked Beastman, or ordered Beastman, to go and find one of the Masks of Power. Because Skeletor is not stupid enough to look for it by himself. Probably hoping to find out about a curse, because if I'm right, then this comic becomes before the one that comes with Skeletor. Beastman, being the weak-minded fool that he is instantly captured by the mask and transformed into, well, whatever he's supposed to be there. You know, I'm going to have to double check this because I think this might be the same Mask of Power they drew in the Skeletor comic now that I'm looking at it. But anyway, Beastman transforms into an ancient dead dark mage Magnus. Which honestly, I think it would have been cool if they'd actually given us that entire costume for Beastman. That would have been a little bit awesome. But of course, the evil mages, were trapped inside the masks or whatever. And so he wants to bring apart a skeleton army. Bring about a skeleton army apart. You want to take apart the skeletons. In order to try to take over Eternia. Luckily, Stratos and the avian people show up to try to stop the invasion. And He-Man flies towards them in a wind radar in order to help out. And even though Beastman has a lot of magic, he ends up using the anti-gravity levitation ray in order to defeat most of the avians, because why not? Oh, hey. I just realized, is that supposed to be, was it Hawk? I think was, because they had a different name for Stratos' sister in the original mini comics and in the show. But I'm wondering if we'll get actually her as a figure, because the design in here actually looks really good. And I am, of course, all for more female figures in the line. I would like to see more female figures, though, where you can swap body parts without them looking funny. But the sorceress pops up and lets He-Man know that he needs the Sword of Ancients to defeat the Mask of Power. Luckily, the Sword of Ancients was actually trapped underground right under their feet, so He-Man's able to easily call upon it. What I find kind of fascinating here is that it mentions here that Magnus remembers the Eldritch Blade, but isn't Eldritch one of the human Earth type of things where they talk about the demons from the Eldritch world, like Cthulhu and stuff? So why was Eternia know about it? Unless, of course, I guess technically they could all be connected to the same dimension, and if the name comes from that dimension, then I guess it makes sense. But we once again have the Sword of Power merge with the Sword of Ancients in order to allow He-Man to destroy the Mask of Power, and thus releasing Beastman from his possession. And I'm sure Skeletor beat the crap out of him. Somehow, though, even though Beastman's Roton was destroyed earlier, it's right back here in one piece, and he's able to grab it and take off. Because, rather than run through all the avian troops who are standing on the ground, or even Stratos and He-Man with a spinning blade of death, Beastman just runs away. So, overall, like I said, I don't know. I'm kind of tired of this comic. On the back, we see part of this, quote, wave, because they're been kind of sporadic with the release the way they've done it. We've got He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe, Beastman, the savage henchman, Man-at-Arms, the heroic master of weapons, and Skeletor, the evil lord of destruction. And now we got our He-Man figure. This is actually technically their second time making a cartoon version of He-Man in the Origins collection, as you could get one with the 4-pack of He-Mans they did for the anniversary last year, where you got original style He-Man, you got New Adventures He-Man, you got the CGI version of He-Man from He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and finally their version of the Filmation He-Man, which would have been nice to bring out to show them off with this one, but still kind of waiting for that one to go on sale. He's got a unique head sculpt, which, to be honest, I don't think it resembles the cartoon as much as I expected it to. Like, I can't tell you exactly what feels off to me with that head sculpt, but something still does. However, he does actually come with the sheath on the back of his vest for holding the Sword of Power. And it pops off really easily. But he did have the sheath in the cartoon. I'm just going to point out here, I don't think it looks all that good the way it's set up here. And I think in the cartoon, the sheath actually held the entire sword, hilt and all. Well, not hilt and all, but up to this point. So this just looks kind of weird to me. I don't know. It feels half done. And honestly, it looks kind of ugly in my opinion. So let's just take that off for the moment. Because basically having him stand like this is probably the way most people recognize He-Man. Unfortunately, with this design in keeping the slit here for the sheath, we're back to these obnoxious straps instead of the obnoxious peg, I guess, that the other ones do. But that are actually probably easier to deal with. So we'll put the thing back in place to go over articulation because we'll want to know if that hinders it in any way, shape, or form. So his head is on a ball joint like all the other Origins figures. We can look up, down, over. You can smell his armpit, spin his head all the way around like he's possessed from The Exorcist. He, of course, has the standard cartoon body. Arm can raise up, can lower down. We can spin around, and he can punch himself in the head. And, of course, if you try to spin it all the way around, the sword gets in the way if it's in the sheath. So let's go ahead and pull the sword out now that we know that that doesn't work well. And we can make the final bit of the 360. His waist does spin all the way around, and the only time the sheath gets in the way is when you hit your own finger while you're holding him. The yeah, that thing sucks. The elbow's got the standard articulation of the cartoon collection, not quite 90 degrees. We have a spin at the wrist and the in and out hinge. He can kick up about yay far, and he can kick back yay far. He can also kick out yay far, which is about standard for our Origin style figures. The knee has that more 90-degree bent to it, further than what we get with Origin style figures. And of course, it has a bit of a spin because there's a peg there. We have a boot cut so that his boot can spin all the way around. And of course, being that this is based on the cartoon, the furry top is not painted this time. We have a hinge at the foot so we can rock it back and forth, up and down, and a pin so we can spin it all around. You can spin it like you want to win it. With He-Man, we do get the Filmation style power sword. It's a full power sword and not a half, and it is the same as the one that comes with Skeletor, and I still don't understand why Skeletor got a power sword in this line, since he doesn't have one in the cartoon, but silly me for questioning such things. He also comes with the Sword of Ancients, which is kind of interesting too, because see if we can get a good look at this. It's almost got a skull face on the sword. And you look at it, I mean, Skeletor aside, there does seem to be a lot of skull motif in the Masters of the Universe world. Surprisingly, a lot of it on the heroic side. So He-Man can wield both the Sword of Ancients and the Power Sword to make him the most powerful man in the universe, who comes with a really stupid looking sheath. And of course, for comparison wise, let's bring out our Origins style He-Man. Early release with the Origins style hairdo, which I know this is unpopular, but I do prefer this head to the toy accurate head. Of course, He-Man stands taller, partially because of the legs being able to stand more straight than Origins, but also, when you get right down to it, the torso was a little bit bigger on the cartoon collection figures as well. I did try to measure the lengths of the thighs. I should probably try doing that. The boots, on the other hand, are the same thing. I don't think they went at all and created new ones. Did they? You know what? In fact, the boots are different in the cartoon collection than they are in the Origins line. They are actually taller and thicker. Actually, let me grab. So the foot itself may actually be the same piece, though it does still look like the cartoon collection might be a little bit bigger. And even though they look like they are using the same design elements, the actual calf part is bigger on the cartoon collection. So that's another reason why the cartoon figures seem to be taller than the Origins. Feet and feet everywhere. So we learned something new today, didn't we? He-Man's got the cartoon collection version, I should say, that since they're both He-Man. Does have the Filmation style belt with no real details on it. Which, of course, there are details on He-Man's regular belt. I feel like there was an episode, though, where he had like some little, where he actually did have the gem on the belt and he popped it off as like a controller for something or another, but I don't remember for sure. Obviously, the face sculpts are different. This one definitely looking more barbaric, and if I had to say, okay, a little bit more like a Neanderthal than this one. But we got better hair detailing there, and he's just got like the very smooth page boy haircut. It's a weird choice. If we take a look at the back, of course, obviously there's a sheath on him where it's just like a little holster on our original one, but it does allow us to put both the sword or the axe back there, my preference generally being the axe. And you can even fit the combined power sword in the back of his. Can you fit it in here? Sort of. Actually. Obviously, you should be able to fit that back there just fine with that one. Because our other thing to check out is Sword of Ancients. Oh, for Lord. You can also put the Sword of Ancients in there, but that looks even sillier than when the Sword of Power is in there. I wonder if this is the same sheath design that they used when they did the that 4-pack for the anniversary. And also, actually, I wonder if that is the same Power Sword design too. I'm assuming in the Power Sword design it's probably the same, so the sheath is probably also the same. But how much of this is actually the same from that one? Sadly, again, he does have the straps that connect that way. They also gave us the kind of more of a cartoonish scene to his equipment. Anyway, I think that concludes our look at the Cartoon Collection He-Man. Please feel free to let me know if you decided to get this one as well. I know there are a few collectors who have decided not to support the cartoon collection, wishing rather to just continue on with the Origin Standard line, which I can't blame them for. I would still like to see the rest of the Origins characters come out. And I will always say, I don't care which figure line does it, whether it's Origins or whether it's Masterverse. For the love of all, Mattel, please give us the 2000X version of the Sorceress in figure form. She is the most stunning version of the Sorceress that has been designed. At least in my opinion, and I think probably a lot of other people as well. So, anyway, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Peace and love.